So how about that trailer for this movie? Yeah, that might be why nobody saw this shit, because I love Ridley Scott and I love everybody involved in this movie, but after seeing that trailer I was like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. But man, was I wrong. The Last Duel is brought to us by director Ridley Scott and stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Adam Driver. King Charles VI declares that Knight Jean de Carragus settle his dispute with his squire by challenging him to a duel to the death. So The Last Duel came out earlier this year to critical acclaim, but nobody fucking saw that shit. It was an epic failure at the box office. The movie cost like, I don't know, a fucking shit ton of money to make, and it didn't make anything at all. I think its opening weekend it did like $8 million, and this is like a $150 to $200 million movie, so $8 million, that's not even a flash in the pan. The movie just came and went. Everybody who saw it had great things to say about it, but there really wasn't many people because nobody saw it. And admittedly, I was part of the problem because I didn't see it either. And while the movie does have just a stacked fucking cast, a great director, and visually it looks stunning, the trailer and marketing to this thing just made it look like an epic bore. The marketing department for this movie didn't do it any favors. But oh my god, were we all wrong. This movie was fantastic. It is based on a true story of a knight, played by Matt Damon, whose best friend, who is a squire, played by Adam Driver, supposedly rapes Matt Damon's wife. That's a bit of an oversimplification of the plot, but that is basically what's going on here. The really neat thing about The Last Duel is the way that it tells its story. It does it in a very Rashomon kind of way. Now, if you don't know what Rashomon is, it is an Akira Kurosawa movie that came out in 1950. And its plot is very similar to that of The Last Duel, but it takes place in feudal Japan. Rashomon was kind of groundbreaking for its time because it was dealing with a situation we didn't really see in film very often, rape. And while that was groundbreaking unto itself, the thing that really made this movie stand out was the way that it told its story, much like The Last Duel. It tells its story from three different perspectives. You have the knight himself, Matt Damon, you have Adam Driver's character, who is accused of this, and you also have the Matt Damon character's wife, Marguerite, played by Jodie Comer's side of the story. So essentially, we see the same story played out 3 times from 3 different perspectives. And I know what some of you are thinking, that seems kind of boring. I'm gonna see the same movie 3 different times all at once. Well, yes, you are, but you see it, like I said, from 3 different perspectives. And like many things in life, perspective can change a lot in a situation. Also, if you haven't checked out Rashomon, go check it out right now. Even if you're not into older films, I know looking at it you might be like, oh, that's old and black and white and all that. The movie is fucking phenomenal. Now, the basic story that takes place that we see these 3 times is pretty much the same. It's never even disputed that this act happened. What is disputed is whether it was rape or not. What I found most interesting about this has to do with the time period and how they viewed these kind of things. Not to spoil anything, but honestly, from all 3 different perspectives, this act, the way it happened, especially when it comes to nowadays ways of thinking, it was rape, clear cut. But this doesn't take place nowadays. And back then, things were really different. Back then, they were asking, you know, were you really asking for it? How were you dressing? How were you acting? Didn't you say you thought he was attractive? Some really crazy shit. And if nothing else, it shows how far we've come in the world. But damn, women, I'm sorry, you guys had it really fucked up back then. That, among many other nuanced things that are going on in this story, are what make it so interesting. Are you seeing the same story 3 times? Yeah, sure you are, but it is never boring. Seeing these little differences in the perception that each of these characters had is really fascinating. How one person perceives an act that someone else did compared to how that person meant it when they were doing it can mean all the difference in the world. And that's what this movie did really well. It shows you those little differences in perspective. This movie is all about perspective if you hadn't gotten that from me using the word like 50 times already in this review. I also really liked how each perspective telling of the story, each person kind of saw themselves in the best possible light and everyone else in not quite as good a light as they perceived. That was some real shit if ever there was some, because that's pretty much how the world still works today. Now, as you can probably guess from the description I've given of this movie up to this point, this movie for the most part is a pretty slow burn. We do get some action here or there, especially at the end of the film, but the vast majority of this is a lot of people talking, and as I said, a lot of the same situations over and over again. That's not to say that it's boring. This movie is never boring. It is fascinating as hell from beginning to end, but it is definitely a slow burn. It's a really interesting slow burn, but a slow burn nonetheless. Now, on that action I mentioned, this is some classic Ridley Scott Gladiator-esque action. The action scenes in this movie, while they are fairly few, they are awesome. Like bloody, violent, gritty affairs. And the final duel, holy shit, is so stressful. By the time you get to this point, you've gotten to know both of these characters that are engaging in this duel pretty well. Both of them have their likable attributes, and both of them have things that they're not so likable for. But now you've got these two characters, you know, just going at it, and the whole time you're just super tense, waiting for that, like, blow that's gonna turn the tide of the fight. And you just don't know the entire time who the hell's gonna win. It was masterfully shot and directed, and undeniably Ridley Scott. Our performances across the board are pretty damn great, and as I said, there is a stacked cast here. Matt Damon, Jodie Comer, Adam Driver, Ben Affleck, just to name a few. And it goes without saying that they are all great here. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and address something real quick, and this seems real petty, but it is what it is. I'm not the only one to make this observation, and that would be some of the hairstyles in the movie, most notably Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Ben Affleck's got like this blonde bowl cut thing going on. That one's not too bad, honestly. It is what it is. But Matt Damon, whoever told him that he needed to have this whole mullet weird thing going on that he's got, the first couple of scenes you see him in, it kind of stands out. It pulls you out a bit. It's kind of comical. I'm assuming it's period accurate, maybe this person in real life, because he is based on a real person. This is the hair he had. Now, you get used to it after a while, and you stop laughing at it. It fades into the background with everything else. But I ain't gonna lie, at first, some of these hairstyles, I was like, what the fuck were they thinking? Sometimes creative license can take over from realism. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Because that mullet idea, I don't give a shit how accurate it is. I would never put that shit in the movie. But like I said, you get used to it. All mullets and bowl cuts aside though, everybody here did a wonderful job, and absolutely some of these people should be considered for Oscars this year. Guys, The Last Duel was a fantastic film, and I never really doubted that it would be, but I also didn't think it was gonna be as damn good as it was. Flawless performances across the board, the movie looks fantastic, and the story is presented to us in such an interesting, just really cool way. This is a story that I was enthralled with from beginning to end, and it is absolutely worth a buy.
Do it! Do it!
Show me the money!
Do it!
You motherfucker!
So,
Show me the money!
do it.
This is just a fantastic film that I hate that I missed when it first came out. We don't get big, grand, thoughtful epics like this all the time anymore, so we need to get out there and support them more. And yes, I'm looking in the mirror right now and telling myself that too. If you're looking for a truly enthralling, fantastic story for the night, then check out The Last Duel, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed. So there it is, guys, my review of The Last Duel. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Con. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Germania. Sorry, it's the best I had. I remember that place from the beginning of Gladiator.
The penalty for bearing false witness.
So what is it about Ridley Scott period movies and him having scenes of people taking knives and slowly shoving them into people's body? And not like in the midsection or something, I mean like their fucking heads. He's done this a few times in his movies, and it's always really fucking unnerving. And if you could guess, no spoilers, but he does it in this movie too. And holy shit, in this one, the way it happens, I mean, I guess it's not as slow, but you really see it coming. Fucking hell. I audibly, as watching this, went, oh! And holy shit, it just, it kind of made me choke when it happened. So be prepared for that. If that's your thing, if you like knives being shoved into people's faces, then be ready, because you're gonna get it here, and it's pretty fucking brutal. Kinda liked it though, I ain't gonna lie.